For those of you who don't know me, my name is Fiona Allen and I am the university's Chief Advancement Officer. So I have the great pleasure and often I think I've got the best job in the university. Our department connects with our outstanding graduates throughout the world. We also work with them to inspire them to give philanthropically into the university. And through this, we get the opportunity to meet some really amazing and talented alumni and graduates from both here in Perth and throughout the globe. And so this is why I'm really excited to be hosting today, because I'm going to be introducing you to a number of our volunteer leaders who work with us in our various chapters throughout the world. So for those of you who also don't know, I do have a university degree, so I'm a graduate of this institution, and I greatly love it, as does everyone else. Volunteers are the lifeblood in a lot of what we do in development and alumni relations. So I'm going to pass through the panel that we have in front of you today, and they're just going to give you a very brief introduction into their background. So I'm going to start with Ricky, who is first on my virtual screen.
Hi everyone, so I'm Ricky Newey, and I graduated from UWA with a Bachelor of Science in Law. I'm currently based in Hong Kong, working as the Regional Commercial Director for Asia at Robert Walters, which is a global market-leading recruitment firm. I've been with the company for a long time, 22 years, working in both London and in Hong Kong. And my role is really helping senior executives grow their businesses and hire talent across Asia. Before that, I worked as a corporate solicitor in Australia and later as an in-house legal counsel for a few US-listed technology companies in London. I've led the UWA Hong Kong alumni since 2010 when I came to Hong Kong from London. And I'm also a committee member for the Federation of Australian Alumni Associations and the Australian Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Thanks, Ricky. And certainly we've been really grateful that you've been leading us for such a long time and choosing to help support us through our journey since 2010. Honey from Singapore.
Hi, my name is Honey Ng, and I studied my bachelor in psychology, ending up with a PhD in psychology. I'm based in Singapore. Currently, because of all the work or the study I've done in UWA, I'm so happy to say that I'm overseeing early intervention in Singapore across 350 of our early child education center. And I have been in the alumni network since 2015. So I think I'm celebrating my 10 years soon. Yay! Thank you. Back to you, Fiona.
Thank you, Honey. And it's great for us to have these celebrations as well. Next, I'm going to go to Amber, who's coming to us from China.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amber. So I finished my Bachelor of Commerce degree with UWA back in 2015. Oh my God, I cannot believe it's already 10 years. So I'm here to representing China UWA Alumni Group. I used to be the leader of the China Alumni Groups, but I made a big decision last year to come back to Australia. So now I'm actually based in WA and working as a human resource professional for an engineering company called ABBA Engineering. I first joined UWA alumni committee back in, I think it was in 2019, as part of the very first group of members. And then after a few years, I was really lucky to become the alumni leaders. And my goal is to bring like all the UWA China alumni together. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to mention, so for all the UWA China alumni, we have a new leader. So his name is Jeffrey, and together with wonderful committee members, Marty and Nan. So we are aiming to bring more people from UWA together. So yeah, it's really nice to be here today and connect with you all. Thank you, Fiona.
Thanks, Amber. Next, I'll go to Tara.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you so much for having me on this panel. It's fantastic to be here. My name is Tara. I graduated from UW in 2012 with a master's in infectious diseases as part of the Barry Marshall Center. And I returned to India in 2012 as well. I returned in capacity to do medical research and support academics. But then I hit a tangent and I made a pivot where I moved into the corporate world. And now I work as a benefits consultant in the field of employee health and benefits with a company, Mercer Marsh Benefits. And I've been with them for the last 3 years or so. In my role, I support corporate clients and multinationals with their benefit structuring, advisory, and consulting as to what works best for their employees. Well, that was a bit about me on the professional side. As part of the Alumni Network, I joined in 2020 and I lead the India Alumni Network. But yeah, that's it from me. Back to you, Fiona.
Thank you very much, Tara. And it's great to see and hear about everyone's background and where their UWA degree has taken them. Albert, I'll ask you to speak next.
Thank you, Fiona. It's a pleasure to be here, and hi, everyone. My name is Albert Ishak. I actually graduated from UWA Bachelor of Commerce in 2010 and Bachelor of Science in 2011 with honors. Since then, I've traveled the world, not only the world, but also the industries as well. I've been moving across 6 different cities, 5 different countries, 4 different continents, spanning different industry from agriculture, aviation, gaming, hotel, and currently mining. I moved to Indonesia in 2021, and since then have been helping with the UWA network in here. Thank you. Come back to you, Fiona.
Thank you so much, Albert. And just for our audience's benefit, we have over 30% of our alumni population is outside Perth or outside Western Australia. So you've heard from some of our global leaders, particularly in the Asia region. So now I'm going to pass to Tommy, who is actually the president of our UWA Graduates Association in Canberra. So a bit more local, but I'll pass over to Tommy.
Thanks, Fiona. G'day all, and pleasure to be here. So my name is Tommy Huang. I graduated from UWA with a Bachelor of Science back in 2009 initially and did honours, and then went on to work in a hospital, Princess Margaret Hospital for those in WA. Then I did my Masters of Business Administration, and then after doing that, I joined consulting. And then in my work in consulting, I consulted to state and territory governments before finding myself aligning to understand more about the Commonwealth and then moved to Canberra in 2019. And when I moved over here, there was a small alumni network where a lot of us came. And since then, I've joined the committee and become the president of this chapter. So that's a little bit about me. Thanks, Fiona.
Thanks, Tommy. And we were due to be joined by Louise Scott, who's the leader of our Melbourne network. Unfortunately, she's not joined yet. So if she does join, I will make I will stop and maybe ask her just to provide of her background for our audience as well. So thank you so much to everyone for introducing themselves. As I said, it's truly fantastic to see a diverse range of degrees and a diverse range of careers and also a diverse range of people who have been volunteering their time to support their alma mater in the country where they are. So I'm going to ask a series of questions now. And if anyone does want to ask anything, please don't hesitate to add it into the chat. And we'll just go in this format for the next 40 to 50 minutes and see how we get on. So first of all, I'm going to ask Ricky, as chair of your respective alumni committee, how do your networks act as a bridge between UWA and local alumni communities, and why is this connection important?
Question. Well, as a regional commercial director, which is the position that I am, connecting people is pretty much second nature to me. And so I apply the same mindset to the alumni engagement. So I've done it through various ways in my own network. First of all, through my job and my company at Robert Walters, I've connected with UWA alumni in C-suite roles who've actually become clients of mine, and also others who are job seekers we've helped place across Asia. And through the Federation of Australian Alumni Associations, we bring together alumni from all different Australian universities in Hong Kong, hosting socials, sporting events, webinars, and even networking with the Australian Consulate General. Finally, at the Australian Chamber of Commerce, I personally sit on the Talent Committee and Construction Property Infrastructure Committee, and it's a really great platform and an easy way to connect with the Australian business community. And actually, in fact, quite a number of the members who I've met are UWA alumni, including the former chairman, Rob Quinlivan. The Chamber hosts professional events, including industry expert panel discussions. They hold government briefings and also social mixes. So Hong Kong, even though it's a lot of people here, it's a city of 1 degree of separation. So building connections through UWA makes it really easier to form friendships and also unlock business potential and opportunities.
Right, Ricky, and that's a really good background. And I know the alumni engagement team will be, and our Deputy Vice Chancellor of Education, Professor Guy Luther, will be in Hong Kong later this year. So we're looking forward to hopefully being able to get a good turnout and to see some of those networks in action. So now I'm going to pass to Amber, Tommy and Tara, and I'm going to ask them to contribute to this question. What inspired you to dedicate your time and energy to leading your alumni network? And what does volunteering mean to you? What does volunteering to UWA mean to you personally?
Okay, I can come first. I think the main reason is always believed in the power of connections, and I know it means a lot to everyone here too. I recall when I first moved back to China, I felt a bit lost, especially like after spending 8 years studying and living in Australia. So I was really hoping to find someone with similar experience who could give me some advice or share me their experience. But at that time, because we don't have the alumni group, so I don't have the luxury of support. So when I received an email from UWA asking me if I would like to join the committee, I happily accepted it. So being part of the UWA committee also meant a lot to me. Like I got a chance to meet a lot of wonderful people and also build lasting relationships. It's also even beneficial to myself. Like I met a lady a few years ago in one of the offline meetup session, and she's also come from Perth. And so when I moved back to Perth last year, and she did give me a lot of like advice and also suggestions. So yeah, really helped me to get my first job. So yeah, thank you. I'll pass it back to you, Fiona.
Thanks, Amber, and that's really good that there is that personal benefit to you too. Tommy, what's been your experience?
Yeah, look, in terms of inspirations, the people, right? So I'm always inspired by the people on this call and the people that went to UWA, and it was very easy for me to want to volunteer my time to connect and learn. The other thing I would say, similar to Amber's story about, moving to a place. When I came to Canberra, I didn't know anyone here. So, and I've always been involved in, the student unions and all those committees. It was easy for me to say, hey, anyone from UWA here, can I connect and let's get to know each other?
Yeah, and certainly we do like to promote that we are an active global community. And so it is a really good thing for our students and our alumni to know that there are people who want to connect and you've got that commonality in place. Tara, you've maybe had a bit of a different experience. Do you want to share yours?
I think my experience may be a little different, but there is certain there is a certain common theme as to what Amber and Tommy spoke about. You talked about connection, you talked about people. I think the sense of community is key to what makes us at UW really special. And I of course, I have an emotional connect as well. I came to Perth when I was 19 years old. Did not know anyone, came in for the first time. And I know the intent was to basically create those connections and meet people and and enjoy the experience at the end of the day. In fact, I was a part of the Postgraduate Students Association as well, while at UW. So I think I took away that experience, and I wanted to bring that to the Indian network, the Indian Alumni Network, when I returned. And that could be whether I'm connecting with recent grads or the current students, or something that I'm really passionate about is knowledge series, which is we did something last year on sustainability and climate policy action. We did that for an online session as part of the network initiative, and we have something planned for 2025 as well. So yeah, I hope to continue that sense of that bond and the community that we have for UW.
Thank you. And I think it is really important. And, I was reflecting on everyone talking about that inspiration, being inspired by other people, wanting to feel part, belonging, feel part of a community, but also very much appreciating that knowledge and wisdom that they got from their alma mater as well, and connecting with people, like-minded people, which I think is really important. Certainly one of the things I enjoy is when we have our big alumni events and we get people in the room and they don't realize how many connections there are between everyone, or how many, or even finding someone that has a similar interest and they might have studied immensely different topics at university. So those type of events are always rewarding. Also, we know that the alumni networks can make a real difference in individual lives of the students or fellow alumni. And so, Albert and Honey, I was hoping you were sharing some beautiful stories recently about where the alumni network in your area has really helped support an individual, whether that was yourself or whether it was someone else. I was just wondering if you could maybe share a bit more around some of those stories.
I'm going to jump in and start first. And hi, Fiona, again. I just wanted to share. In Singapore, we've done many activities and different ways of supporting each other. But one thing that stays in my mind for a long time, and I still think about it now, is when our alumni come in for open day and have a panel and just talk to incoming students to Australia, or students who are thinking about going to Australia into Perth, and we share our experience. Not me, the younger alumni, and it's I found that to be so helpful for the students going into Perth, and they always come back saying that it was really good listening to our experiences and to our sharing, and what I found so fulfilling is that they later become alumni and continue to be part of this network of supporting others. Over to you, Albert.
Yeah, thank you for that, Honey. I believe the network, the alumni network, has a value when is the connection. And basically, the connection is the strongest value of this network itself. So whoever that you connect with in the network has gone through the same experience like you, go through the UWA education. So I would like to share my personal story. Being in the leadership position can be lonely, and not many people can actually can tell you upfront about the situation and want to be truthful with you. So personally, I was lucky. I met one of the good person, very wise and also experienced, CEO of one of the food chain of QSR business in Indonesia. I was going through personally with some issue with the crisis management, but I know this person has gone through the same thing. Well, different scale, of course, but then it's also the value of this network. When you make a connection with someone, you kind of know that this person has gone through this, that, and that. Then you can actually tap into them, and basically, when you need it, you can have a discussion with them to get some feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, Albert and Honey. And I think, reflecting on the story, there's something that we all have in common. And even by my accent, most of you can tell I'm not from Perth originally, but that the thought of moving to a new city can be very daunting, and to have our alumni support some of our future students to help them break it down and say, it'll be all right, don't worry about it, is a really great thing that our alumni do for our incoming students. But then on the other hand, Albert's completely correct. Is sometimes on the other scale, that you're thrown into your professional working life, and sometimes it's hard to know where to get advice out with your own organization. And so when you have networks and people who want to extend friendship and knowledge with you, that's what we hope that our alumni network can be. And it certainly sounded like it can come out. Sometimes you meet people at the right time for the right reason. And sometimes that's what we hope through these networks, is that we're not only connecting people back to the institution, but we're also connecting them to each other, which is equally as important. So on that theme about coming to live in Perth, what advice would you give to students who are maybe considering moving to your city or country after graduation? What would be the best advice that you could provide them? And I'm going to go to Tara for that first.
So I think I would answer that question keeping the recent global dynamics in mind. There's been a lot of talk of movement between countries, return to countries, and let's say migration and natural migration of resources, and the kind of the fantastic alumni that we have to offer. Keeping that in mind, I think, yes, of course, again, same theme of community is that we do take a lot of comfort in the support that is to offer. And, whether it's even moving to a new country or returning to India like I did, you're returning to perhaps your home city. My advice in any case, in either of those scenarios, would be to keep an open mind. I know how it was for me when I moved to Perth. There's a certain amount of experience that I could possibly offer to say that, look, be proactive, take advantage of the opportunities that are offered to you, or perhaps go seek them out, whether it's for personal growth or professional growth. It might be a very new environment for some of you. It might be, in fact, it might just be moving cities within the same country. But I think my takeaway from this is that, use this as an opportunity to learn about, let's say, new cultures and enjoy the experience.
Thanks, Tara. And Tommy, you're on the other end of the country to us. So what advice around Canberra, apart from take your woolly hat?
You've literally just given the advice I was going to say. I mean, perhaps just a reflection, if anything. So moving to Canberra, it is very different, a lot colder. I completely underestimated how cold it would be. I definitely do miss the beaches, so you have to come with that in mind. But I suppose the advice and reflection is for those that are considering and thinking about how to achieve a significant impact for our country, Australia, this is the place to be, right? We all go to university, and it's in our motto, seek wisdom. That's really an inspiring motto, and that's why I decided to move to Canberra, to seek wisdom and to achieve impact on the national scale. So but definitely bring your woolly hat, and a puffer jacket is the uniform in Canberra.
Yes, definitely. And I think I really like that, referring back to seek wisdom, because I think our founders put a lot of thought into that, and to make sure that a logo lasted beyond your time at university, and that seek wisdom hopefully inspires us all to continually seek wisdom no matter which city and whereabouts in the globe we are. So for those, I'm going to ask Albert this question, and maybe Rishi, I might ask you as well, but I'll come to you. I'll go to Albert first. How can recent graduates tap into alumni networks in your country or city to feel connected and supported if they move there?
Awesome. I think it's a great question. It's quite simple to do as well. First, of course, you can join the mailing list. So you update your profile first. So whenever there's a communication, you're going to be updated. Second, it would be to actually connect with our WhatsApp group. So we also connect and communicate with each other within WhatsApp group. And three, we also have an events. So always still come down to the events and make a connection right away.
Fantastic. Ricky?
Yeah, pretty much similar to what Albert mentioned. I guess for myself, I've actually had UWA alumni reach out through to me directly, and then I've introduced them actually to Daniel to make sure they are on that newsletter list, because sometimes their email address might have changed, or they've been lost in contact and so forth. So knowing who the UWA alumni committee leader is in your location is very important. So that's one way. The other way actually is that if you aren't too sure and you don't have any contacts with UWA, look on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an easy way to have a look at, in your location, who's, within your UWA alumni network, and feel free to reach out through to them as well. I mean, I know it's a little bit more bullshit type of way, but one thing I've had from my experience is, if you do reach out to people on LinkedIn and you're from UWA and you ask them for connection and explain to them, a lot of the time they're happy to connect. You'd be so surprised. And especially from personal experience, I had a great time at university. I spent 6 years there, and so I had some fantastic memories. So if you are similar to me, you're more than happy to help connect and do as much as you can to help people get settled into a different country.
Brilliant, thank you. And that's really some great advice. Now, Amber and Honey, have you seen examples of alumni helping each other out professionally through mentoring, job opportunities, or introductions through the networks in your country or other UWA networks that you may be involved in?
I'll jump into this one first. Sorry, Honey. Yeah, I think we had a lot of examples of alumni helping each other. Like we had senior alumni giving career advice to the younger ones, or introduce them to the job opportunities, or just simply connect with each other to provide support and share information they have. And also in China, because we do have our WeChat group, and I think now it's 350 people, and I can see people asking questions, and there's always someone jumping with some suggestions and answers. So one real examples, actually, I do have a personal friend. She graduated from UWA just like I do. She got an accounting degrees, so her biggest dream is to find a job in Big Four. So I invited her to one of the UWA alumni offline meetup events back in, I think it was in 2022, if my memory is correct. And she actually met someone who already have 10 years working experience in Ernst & Young. And you know what? A couple of months ago, a couple of months later, she texted me, said she got a job in Ernst & Young. So yeah, that's the one examples I'm aware of, but I'm pretty sure a lot of similar things happened. Even myself, when I was working in China as HR, so I also give advice and also suggestions to the fresh graduates. So yeah, so I'll move it to your Honey.
Thank
you. Thanks, Fiona. Yeah, so we do a lot of that, a lot of advising each other, helping each other along the way in their career journey. A couple of two things that maybe I want to share. The first is whenever we do alumni get together, whether it's drinks or it's with one of the other events hosted by UWA. If I do see new alumni, new members joining, I would then ask them, what do you want to hear about? Electric vehicle or whatever, and I direct them to the groups that's having those conversations. And before you know it, a lot of connecting and a lot of what goes out from there. Example, I know one of our colleagues who has gone recently on to Vietnam on a business trip, and before she went, she needed to know some people who are in the legal consulting network, and one of the alumni introduced her. She's off there meeting up with them, and I thought that's really, really helpful since she's going into a new environment, new country. Another one, we were having a conversation on electric vehicle. Before you know it, one of the members is invited to be a technical consultant for a proposal. So things like this happen organically very often in our network, our gatherings.
Yes.
Back to you, Fiona.
Thank you. And I think
I've got a couple of extra examples, if that's okay.
yeah. Please, Ricky, go ahead.
Yeah, on mentoring, there's a guy by the name of Peter Reading. He's a UWA alumnus in Hong Kong, and he's previously worked for Equal Opportunities Commission, Board of Amnesty, and a guest speaker at the United Nations. And he's been a great mentor. He's actually a human rights law lecturer and also sponsoring a human rights award at UWA. On the mentoring side, personally, I've also mentored a lady by the name of Grace Shi, who's actually on this call, Chinese overseas master's student in HR, offering her career advice and even supporting her on thesis project. And in terms of business introduction, I've got a standout example of which I'd like to share is Brian Tell, who's a philosophy lecturer of applied AI. He collaborated with John Koshy, a general counsel, on generative AI legal paper, which was published by Asian Legal Business. So I think there's just a genuine willingness to help within the UWA community, and a lot of great mentors and business professionals out there. So all you have to do is reach out and ask.
Thanks very much, Ricky, and it's great to hear those examples from Hong Kong as well. And I think what's really striking is that it doesn't matter whether people are meeting in person or, as Amber said, using more digital means, that our alumni are willing to engage and support other alumni and in their career or job opportunities. And definitely, I think it's great that when we do have the opportunity to have the in-person events, that we are connecting people with like-minded interests. And then sometimes, as you say, Ricky, some people end up having a greater connection back to UWA through some of their other areas of volunteering or giving as well. So that's really great. So we are going to get ready to wrap up to allow our audience to ask any questions. But one of the things that I'm always really interested in is thinking ahead. And so I was just wondering, what do you see are the biggest opportunities for alumni networks in your region or city to grow or evolve? And I'm going to start with Honey in the first instance.
Hi, Fiona. I think I have thought about this a lot. And one of the things is with our alumni coming in and settling into the network, I do find a trend. They come in and they are doing a lot at the beginning of the career. But once they start to be promoted and all, I think then they have less time to spend versus when they are newer. So what I'm suggesting is to kind of provide for that seasonal needs for our alumni and to really grow with it. In terms of thinking about what we do in Singapore, I think I'm still trying to sort that out, to look at how to get them to stay connected as they grow in their career. I'm going to say back to you, Fiona.
Thank you. And having that lifelong relationship is challenging because people have go through different stages of life and things like that. So we certainly know that and feel that here in Perth as well. Albert, what are your thoughts on that question around biggest opportunities for alumni networks in your country?
I think it's basically the same pattern, right? People when they just fresh graduate, they would like to be with the network. When they're a bit older, when about to retire, they can also more active with the network. So for me, this is actually interesting pattern, and you can actually connect them. So mentor and mentee relationship is actually good. So the younger people can learn from somebody that has experience, and people that has experience can be more relevant at the same time.
Thank you. Amber and Tara, the same kind of question to you, but with a slightly different lens, is that given UWA has high numbers of students from China, and so our graduate population in China is going to grow. And Tara, the university's just announced that we want to establish universities in India, so we'll have a growing population of more students coming from India. I was wondering if either of you want to, or both of you want to respond on that.
Probably I start it first. I know it's quite challenging in China to bring like everyone together. And also I think it's just because like our habit, like when we were in China, we don't normally check the emails. So it's also really hard for the like alumni office to reach out to the already returned to China alumni. So I think the best way is like before they come back to China, they come back to their hometowns, like they send them a couple of emails with the like Chinese alumni group information. So after they come back, they can like join in straight away. And also, just like Albert and Hani, I'm quite passionate about mentee programs as well. So I think like those ones who are more established can provide guidance to the recent graduates, while the younger alumni also can bring like fresh ideas and also energies. So this exchange can really like strengthen the sense of community, and also it's a good way to bring people together. Because before that, when I try to invite someone to our alumni group, I often got a question like, so what is the purpose to join to this group? So yeah, I think it's important to like, well, give them a purpose.
Yeah. Thank you. Tara, what from your perspective?
So first off, I'm super excited about the India campus. I mean, literally close to home, instead of miles away from where I am right now. So can't wait for that to actually begin operations as such. I know we're right in the establishing of, putting things together, but can't wait for that to actually kickstart. So I look at, I would like to answer your question in a certain vein of understanding how would I engage the returning alumni. And I think considering the vast size of region, where you're looking at India and the surrounding subcontinent, I think the best way to engage alumni would be with the digital platforms that we have, the means of social media. I know we talked about WhatsApp groups earlier, mailing lists. I think that is key to conversation as to how we would actually even make those connections. But not just that. We've talked about the virtual events that we've done previously for, let's say, for the India network, webinars on professional development. Yeah? I think there is a lot of scope for us to widen our reach. And I think post-pandemic, it's really, you find that the audience themselves are very open to such means and of communication, whether it's, as I said, tech or social media. I think those sort of interventions would really help strengthen, our reach. And I truly believe, so I think we've talked about mentorship as well. I think mentorship can be borderless. That's something that I know I've done personally for India specifically, but I think it's something, and I think Ricky talked about it, certain professionals who are out of, let's say, Hong Kong. I definitely think it's borderless, and I'm so grateful that we have this community where we can actually have people reaching across, let's say, the Asia continent, or whether it's Australia. So yeah, those would be my thoughts on that.
Thank you. Ricky, obviously being one of our long-standing leaders, you'll have a perspective on this as well, and really interested to hear your thoughts.
Yes. Look, I think the biggest opportunity lies, I think some of you already touched on this, is knowledge sharing. And I'll be a little bit more specific, especially around AI and digital transformation, which is a hot topic at the moment. Businesses, I mean, I speak to C-suites every single day, heads of HR, and businesses are rapidly adopting AI to boost productivity, reduce costs, and free up teams for strategic work. So alumni networks can help members upskill and adapt, whether it's through events, mentorships, or even peer learning. And for those students and graduates, I think it's really important you understand AI's real-world impact, which is absolutely critical. It may even shape your career path in unexpected ways, to be honest. And we're really seeing at the forefront, being a recruitment firm, huge demand for AI specialists, data scientists, and even hybrid roles that blend tech with law, finance, and even marketing. And what we're seeing is a lot of these corporate functions are really evolving rapidly, using data visualization tools and dashboards like Power BI, Tableau, making sense of this data to drive commercial businesses forward, or using internal AI chatbots like Copilot or ChatGPT, or we have our own internal private ChatGPT as well. So the jobs of tomorrow are going to look very different in the future, and alumni networks can really help bridge to help people pivot and also thrive. So yeah, that's sort of my thoughts.
Right. And then Tommy, in the heart of Australia, our nation's capital, how do you think there's opportunity for alumni there, given that you've heard lots of different thoughts from some of our strong alumni networks in Asia?
Some great examples there and thoughts. So probably two. One, and it's part of our strategy in our alumni network here, is about connecting past and present experiences. I think there's something really powerful in being able to find those connections, whether it's a direct connection or some kind of adjacent connection between different disciplines of what we've studied. And the second thing, I think, what I love about this opportunity that I get to do in leadership is celebrating people. There's some wonderful stories here in Canberra. You know, one of our alumni here, she was one of the first statisticians in Canberra, and I've got many firsts of these types of stories here, and they're very inspiring. So, you know, finding ways to elevate and celebrate these types of alumni stories are, I think, are great opportunities for the networks.
Thank you very much, and I think that's right, and I think it's learning, everyone learning from each other. It's not necessarily our younger graduates learning from those who have, or I should say, our more recent graduates, learning from those people who have graduated a long time ago. I think there's that thought of learning, and that diffuse of knowledge can transcend all different areas, and particularly Ricky there, and I think someone else spoke very passionately about AI and using these networks to find out what other organizations are doing. You know, you mentioned a few different brand names and things like that, but that's what these networks are there to do. Well, what does your organization do in AI? And it really helps build your knowledge. And I thought Amber had some really interesting reflections, as with the rest of the panel, about reminding us here in Perth, Western Australia, about the cultural diversity that we have in our graduate population throughout the world, and just because a preferred method of communication, what works here in Perth might not work elsewhere. So, and I know certainly the other alumni networks, and Albert mentioned, I think Honey did, and Tara, digital is really important. So how do we think about that? I am going to ask if anyone has, anyone who is on the call with us has any questions. And if so, could you please put them into the webinar chat? And I think if the panel wouldn't mind indulging me, I think I'd like to ask another question of each one of you if we've got time. And that would be something around that career or industries that are growing in your area. Ricky touched on it slightly, but how could our future students best position themselves in your area? And is it that before they go to try and connect with people to understand the culture, or is it understanding what's driving the country? And so I might pass to Ricky if you would mind taking the first stab at that question, if possible.
Yeah, that's a big question. Number one, it depends on which country you are in, because every country's markets are different. So my first step is, understand, number one, the country dynamics. So, do your own due diligence, read the news, do your own research, use ChatGPT that can provide easy access to, what's hot, what's sort of marketable, what is the country, or what is the hot jobs in that location is very, very important. Depending on what your field you're in as well, because depending on your field, there's different things. Like Hong Kong in particular is a financial hub. So that's the majority of it is financial services, but obviously there's a lot of corporates, education, there's medical healthcare professions and so forth. So number one, do your research. Number two, if you are looking at jobs and what's hot, there are a lot of job boards and websites that you can look up. In Hong Kong, for example, JobsDB, there's LinkedIn. So then you get a flavor of what are the type of jobs that are being advertised, so that you can think about your future, depending on what you're studying, what type of opportunities there are in the different industries. And that's another way of also looking at it. If you get to a stage where you graduate, then I'd be speaking to professionals and career advisors, career mentors. People from UWA is an easy way to reach out through to and get their advice. But just get yourself out there. That's what I would say. And also go and network, because the more you network, the more you speak to people, the more you'll understand the dynamics of the city, cultural differences, and so forth. So in Asia, Japan is very, very different to the way that we operate in Hong Kong versus the way that we operate in China. So there are certain cultural nuances that you need to also know about as well. Yep.
Thanks, Ricky, and I think that's very sound advice. I am just going to quickly refer to one of the questions because it follows on very nicely. I'm going to address this to Tommy in particular. One of our students, and please forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, but Omar Farrick and Nook is an international student aiming to build a career in Australia as a policy analysis or advisor. And do you think it's more effective to target these roles directly, or to first gain experience in adjunct positions like policy, research, or consulting, and then pivot? So it's really understanding how to get into working in Australia as a policy advisor. What's the best pathway?
Oh, that's a hard question, actually. So I've never been a policy analyst before. Or a policy advisor, so I caveat everything I say. But I suppose, based on my experience having worked externally, the benefit of what I did working consulting was getting to understand lots of different policy positions, getting to understand how to do research, and then how to use evidence, how to do consultation with different stakeholders. And then how to package that for my clients, generally who are policy executives and policy officers, with that. So I don't know if I've answered your question directly, But, what I would say is speaking to alumni that have come here and gone straight into APS roles, so Australian Public Service roles in policy, it's your career is not so linear. There's many approaches to that. So it just depends on perhaps it's more what skills you're trying to gain, and then the area that interests you. That's probably what I would say is my advice.
Thank you, Tommy. And Grace from Perth has asked, what do you see as the biggest challenges in our industry over the coming years? Now, I'm not quite sure what industry Grace is in, but maybe a couple of you might want to see, just talk about what the future jobs look like in your particular region. Albert, would you mind if you could have the first attempt at that question?
Sure. I think the biggest challenge with the automation and also with AI, I think it's the way it's going to change the way we work and also how we process information as well. I think you don't have to be an expert to build an AI, but you need to be able to understand to use it as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Honey, do you have any thoughts on that?
Opportunities and I'm just thinking, so I'm a bit far away from Perth, adding on to that question. But I think that if you are trying to understand the what are the opportunities and challenges, I really will go back to what Ricky said about connecting and going into and inviting yourself into the network. And I think the alumni network is a fantastic place to get those information in relation to what's happening locally. And in Singapore too, we host network events, and we have people from different countries coming in, alumni, UWA alumni coming in, and also having to understand, trying to understand, and trying to make the decision whether to stay or not to stay. So I will refer back to Ricky's main thoughts regarding connecting with the network. Yeah, thank you.
I've just got a few points on that, because obviously I see what's happening in the market day in, day out. I mean, we have gone through a very challenging time over the last couple of years. The reality is, after COVID, normally a market bounces back quite quickly, but it hasn't. It's taken a much longer time to recover, even compared to the global financial crisis, which I had been a part of before. The challenges that we're facing is a lot of companies now, if you look in the market, they're downsizing, right-sizing, they're consolidating, topics of HR optimization, finance optimization, digital transformation. You'll hear these topics. And companies are really trying to keep their companies lean to develop in the future once the market picks up. And AI is definitely part of that. So I think the biggest opportunities, especially graduates coming out, is you need to be agile. You need to be able to upskill, reskill, and be agile to the market. And once again, really, as I said before, looking at AI's real world impact, have a look at how AI is affecting your business or your industry and be aware of it. And I'd also, if you can, learn more about how it's used. I mean, I recently found out about AI agents, which I didn't really investigate before, and it's all new to me because I'm, obviously, this is all new technology to me. But be aware of what's happening in your environment, and I think that's the biggest advice that I can give.
Thanks, Ricky. Do any of the other panelists have any other thoughts on that advice that they'd like to give? Yes, just before we finalize.
I'll be happy to provide perspective. Tommy, do you want to go first?
No, you go, Tara, first.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. We talked about post-pandemic, and I hear AI being mentioned. And the reason this comes to mind is this is the kind of role I do for, my job is to be industry agnostics, because that's what benefits consultants do. They work across industries, whether it's BFSI or life sciences or IT, ITS. And by the nature of being in India, it really helps to have visibility into multiple industries, because India happens to be the GCC hub of the world, which is the global capability centers, which are back-end support systems for some of the largest corporates on the globe. As far as I remember right, I think we are 2,000 plus companies, multinationals who are in India right now. We hire, I think we employ about 2 million Indians who work they work in various functions, whether it's R&D or whether it's tech or whether it's HR and talent professionals, because after all, the diverse talent pool really helps, and we are STEM proficient, so that really helps in terms of, as I said, I heard the term AI being spoken of often. Open AI is coming to India as well now. So I definitely think while the world has changed post-pandemic, the way we work has changed post-pandemic. I mean, I think digital connections are now the way to go. People realize, even from an HR productivity point of view, people are much more productive. They're able to actually drive efficiencies, whether they're sitting in the office or whether they're sitting. Well, I could be working out of Australia as well. But the fact of the matter is that jobs have definitely evolved, and I think I would touch upon the whole fact is, as long as that you are within the market of an understanding of how this evolution impacts your specific industry. And I bring this up because I know that I think the question did not mention a specific industry. I don't think Grace mentioned which industry she's talking about. But I think the whole point being that as long as you're willing to be flexible and understand that what we were in 2019, 2018 is possibly not what we are, where we are today. And I'm very cognizant of the fact that we might be speaking to a lot of millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha folks. And I from an alumni perspective, I think we should start thinking about how would we engage with Gen Alpha, the next generation. So I think there's scope for change, and as long as we are, I like the word that Ricky used, agile. As long as we're agile, I think we'll be fine.
Thank you. Tommy, you had something you wanted to.
Yeah, I was just going to make a quick comment. I'm conscious that we're at time. I think, my personal views are that, yes, AI, yes, digital skills are important now, but I think what's going to be even more important for graduates these days, and I'm projecting forward, 5, 10, 20 years, is critical thinking will never go away. Your ability to critically think, that's going to be important, and especially thinking about it in the context of systems. That's really, really important. And then the second thing I think I would add to that is the human element of decision making, the human element of interactions. Everything's all digital. Right now we're having a digital webinar, but one of the biggest areas I see with recent graduates is that the human interaction, it is a skill that, to hone and foster. That's an area I would encourage everyone to continue to practice through engaging your alumni network.
I would like to thank those people who have made the time this afternoon to listen to our amazing leaders. Hopefully that you have been able to learn something about UWA and the amazing impact that our graduates have in the region. We have an outstanding panelists here who give time along with their other fellow committee members. And for that, we are eternally thankful. And but more than that, I think, as someone mentioned, I can't remember who mentioned, the university's motto is Seek Wisdom. And I think what these panelists have shown us today, that that seeking wisdom doesn't end with your graduation date or receiving your certificate. It continues on. And so I just would really like to thank the panelists for making the time this afternoon. Thank you to everyone for listening, and thank you very much to the panel for contributing And thank you to my colleagues, Daniel and Alison, for arranging this webinar. Thank you, everyone, and have a lovely weekend.